post-pandemic world, we hope to fully explore the different innovations and requirements that can effectively position housing as a tool in combating the epidemic on the single premise that the world has finally come to the realization of the importance of housing and the environment, and therefore, Nigeria and Africa cannot be left behind, so as to adequately prevent the kind of experiences witnessed in India, South Africa, and other parts of the world where COVID-19 is concerned. As we commence the 15th edition of the Abuja International Housing Show, the importance of housing cannot be overstated. If we must accomplish social distancing and promote personal hygiene according to World Health Organization protocol, the AHS 15th edition has put in place safety protocols to facilitate a issue-free conference with zero tolerance for risky behavior, and we believe participants will be fully guarded. As part of the issues that will be addressed this year is the involvement of the youth in designing the future of affordable housing. And I'm glad to say that we have a lot in store in terms of the youth housing design competition, which is a first of its kind in Nigeria and, need we say, Africa. Also part of the issues to be addressed at this year's conference will be the matter of housing data for effective planning and delivery. I remember our ministers for Works and Housing have been talking about this issue of data. And Housing Development Advocacy Network have found time to respond to the Honorable Minister, and we have chosen that this year, 2021, we put this issue of data in the front burner of our discussion. The minister have discovered the lie. The lie is that there's 18 million housing deficit. For all of us that are here in this year Abuja International Housing Show, we must do everything in collaboration with the minister and all stakeholders, local and international, to unveil the truth of what really is the figure of housing deficits in Nigeria. To this end, the Nigeria Bureau of Statistics, NBS, National Population Commission, Central Bank of Nigeria, Federal Ministry of Works and Housing, Federal Mortgage Bank of Nigeria, Nigeria Mortgage Investment Company, Federal Ministry of Finance, and other critical stakeholders will deliberate on Nigeria housing deficit figure and the way forward in terms of the segmentation of our housing needs and what is expected and required, both from an urban and rural perspective, using both local and international best practice. For us in the housing abuse sector, and particularly the Housing Development Advocacy Network that I represent, we remain unrelenting in advocating for the development and rollout of affordable housing by government and the private sector, and would like to commend the response of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Ministry of Finance, and other stakeholders toward the establishment of the 200 billion National Social Housing Program being managed by the Family Homes Fund to deliver 300 housing units for low-income earners across the Federation. We are glad that the government finally heard our clamor, but like the popular Charles Dickens character, Oliver Twist, we still believe that more is needed and required if we have to effectively tackle the growing demand. It is against this background that we commence this 15th edition of the Abuja International Housing Show. It is my honor and privilege to commend the Board of Trustees and organizers of this year's events with the team for fostering progressive conversation that will spur all public and private sector players into taking the required action to move the sector forward. The challenges that we face as a country in the housing sector are enormous. Our housing deficit, though currently being contested, is estimated to be over 17 million. Housing units is still the highest in the continent, and current effort to resolve this remains inadequate. As daunting as Nigeria housing challenges it is not insurmountable, but rather holds great promise and opportunities. History has handed us the stakeholders that are here today, policymakers that are here today, and government functionaries that are here today, the opportunity to make a difference in our efforts to use the AHS platform to continue to make impacts. We are also encouraged by the enthusiasm and commitment shown by state governors nationwide, addressing the challenges with housing, particularly in the northeastern part of Nigeria, where housing is in high demand on account of the housing ongoing social issues, and would like to see this opportunity provided by the AHS to recognize the effort of state government toward driving increased housing development for the internally displaced and socially disadvantaged. It is a sign of the increasing consciousness by political leaders of the need to take more aggressive action toward engendering housing development. As an industry, we also see a lot of positive trends. This includes the emergence of strong innovations like alternative housing finance, no-interest loan, among others initiatives that are currently being deployed to stimulate affordable housing development and mortgage lending. There are also historic interventions with great potential for boosting housing deficit. In conclusion, I will once again like to say that after 15 years of the Abuja International Housing Show, we are beginning to see the initiatives and collaborative programs that we hope promise in leading the housing sector to the path of improved housing development. I thank you all, the ministers, the permanent secretaries, great and notable Nigerians that are here today. God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
I think you deserve another round of applause. Thank you very much for doing well in everything that you touch. He went into law and excelled. He went into the media and did excellently well. He's in housing and it's impossible to beat him. Please give him another round of applause. I want to welcome a professor of English and Literature from South Africa, John Beeman. Please put your hands together for him. You're welcome. He was the one who coordinated for us an English workshop where we were trying to pick an English language, particularly for Africa. We're trying to see whether we should use the British English or the American English. It was difficult to choose after 3 weeks because, for instance, in Britain they will say extreme, in America they will say end, but here we'll say extreme end. In Britain they will say short, in America they will say knicker, but here we'll say short knicker. In Britain they will say salon, in America they will say barber shop, but here we'll say barbing salon. In Britain they will say so, in America they will say therefore, but here we'll say so therefore. In Britain they will say still, in America they will say yet, but here we'll say. In Britain they will say should, in America they will say in case, but here we'll say. In Britain they will say henceforth, in America they will say from now on, but here we'll say from now henceforth. In Britain they will say reverse, in America they will say turn back, but here we'll say reverse. In Britain they will say tell me the reason, in America they will say tell me why, but here we'll say tell me the reason why. Let's also welcome all the way from the Republic of Liberia, the National Housing Authority. I want to especially welcome the Deputy Managing Director for Technical Services, Mr. Henry S. Clark. Please put your hands together for him. All right, we also want to specially welcome the representative of the Corps Marshal of the Federal Safety Corps, Dr. Boboye Oyeyemi, who's represented today by Dr. Ebenezer Adebisi, who is the Corps Commander for Housing. Please put your hands together for him. Let's also specially welcome Town Planner Nathaniel Atebije, who is the first National Vice President, Nigerian Institute of Town Planners. Permit me also to specially welcome Town Planner Olutoyin Ainde, National President, Nigerian Institute of Town Planners. You're welcome. So distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I've been told that the next speaker ought to be our chairman for today, but with special permission, Mr. Chairman, we will need your permission to do a little alteration. Well, in housing, you can change a plan, you can revoke land, and you can retitle it. So our position remains to bring this man who, when he was minister, he did not only focus on climate change and biodiversity, he also focused on land degradation, and particularly so we can use proper land for the purpose of housing. Distinguished guests, let's welcome, therefore, the former Minister of State for Power, Works and Housing, Surveyor Suleiman Hassan Zarma, MNIS. Please put your hands together for him as we bring him up to deliver for us the opening remarks. Mr. Chairman, thank you. Please can we clap a little more for him as he comes up to speak to us about going forward. He has been at the saddle, he has worked hard in 3 different capacities, and today we'll hear from him. Mr. Minister, please, our chairman for today. Another round of applause for him.
Maybe I can drop this now. Honorable Minister of Environment, Mohamed Mahmoud Abubakar, PhD, I prefer, rather than call him doctor. The Honorable Minister of State, Works and Housing, Engineer Abubakar Aliyu, Fellow of the Nigerian Society of Engineers, the Honorable Minister of the FCT, ably represented by the Permanent Secretary, Mr. Adeshola Olushade, the Honorable Minister of State for Housing, Federal Republic of Ghana, representatives of the governors of Borno, Lagos, and Yobe states, representatives and heads of ministries, departments, and agencies, distinguished stakeholders, gentlemen of the press, ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure and honor to welcome you to the 15th edition of the Abuja International Housing Show with the theme, Sustainable and Resilient Housing Solution for Post-Pandemic World. This year's show is part of the efforts of the International Housing and Construction Show, grand advocacy event targeted at creating awareness for affordable housing as a critical human need. This yearly event gives us the opportunity to take stock of the state of our housing and construction industry, especially those left behind when it comes to housing as a fundamental human right, and determine the way forward. The theme of this year's show could not have come at a better time than now, when the world is saddled with the scourge of the COVID-19 pandemic and the damning consequences, especially on those without access to affordable housing and shelter. COVID-19 has spread to all parts of the world, showing that ours is indeed a small world with little or no boundaries. As of July 2021, there are over 100 million confirmed cases of COVID-19. It's actually about 143 by the 18th of July, with over 5 million deaths reported in over 200 countries and territories. The COVID-19 pandemic led to a lockdown which paralyzed economic activities in both formal and informal sectors. The implication of such paralysis include the loss of or reduction of household incomes, government revenues, and attendant ability to meet statutory responsibilities, including the provision of affordable housing. and with drastic impact on health and well-being of internally displaced individuals, as well as those without shelter. The informal sector employs about 80% of Nigerians and is mainly made of daily paid workers who are worst hit by the lockdown. It is pertinent to mention that amongst those in the low-income bracket and the informal sector, the COVID-19 lockdown has impacted them more negatively. The likely effects of the COVID-19 pandemic on the delivery of affordable housing in the face of reduced revenues is better imagined. Already, Nigeria is experiencing an increased rate of unemployment and youth restiveness, with banditry and kidnapping being the order of the day. The lockdown due to the pandemic has also made it impossible for schools to resume. In the absence of schooling, more children and youth are likely to drop out of school with only unimaginable consequences for society, e.g., increase in gender-based violence, ranging from kidnapping, terrorism, rape, physical and emotional assault, some of which has resulted in loss of lives. It is heartwarming and noteworthy that in addressing the impacts of COVID-19 and ensuring development and growth of the economy, the present government has initiated numerous programs that can drive employment creation and improve on the availability of housing. Some of these programs include the COVID-19 economic stimulus, where the government announced an approval of a stimulus package of about 3 trillion naira to cushion the effect of the coronavirus pandemic on the economy. The package is expected to address the needs of both formal and informal sectors, including the National Social Housing Program. It has also developed an infrastructure company in partnership with the Central Bank of Nigeria, Nigerian Sovereign Investment Authority, and private sector stakeholders. It is no longer news that the various state governments have continued to support the supply of affordable housing through budgetary allocations, either as direct investments or counterpart funding from the federal government. The presence of the representatives of the governors of Borno, Yobe, and Lagos State is an acknowledgement of this fact, because it is clear the delivery they have done, we all have seen. For us, in the Abuja International Housing Show, we shall continue to pursue our mandate of advocacy and promoting the availability of affordable housing and social economic data for championing the cause of housing provision, as well as advise government on related issues as our contribution towards ameliorating the adverse effect of the pandemic against those that lack access to affordable housing. We recognize the data collection disaggregated by the housing practitioners is at the center of most failed housing projects, particularly as it has to do with low-cost housing. Hence, the Abuja International Housing Show has continued to collaborate with World Bank, Central Bank of Nigeria, Population Commission, the Ministry of Works and Housing, Mortgage Refinancing Company, Federal Mortgage Bank of Nigeria, Bureau of Statistics, Mortgage Bank Association of Nigeria, and other development partners, not governmental organizations, and MDAs to generate data meant to address the issue of housing deficit across this country, Nigeria. I wish to use this opportunity of the 15th edition of this show to thank all sponsors and the Board of Trustees for their technical and financial support over the years. I will also not forget to thank other stakeholders, especially members of the Technical Working Group and the press, for their unrelenting support in bringing to the forefront the cause of affordable housing as a fundamental human right. I therefore wish to conclude by calling on all stakeholders to join hands to ensure that housing and construction takes the center stage in our development efforts as a nation. Thank you very much for listening, and have an impactful conference.
I think he deserves a better round of applause. Let me once again remind us that the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Mr. Boss Mustafa, is ably represented here. Can we put our hands together, especially for his representative. Thank you very much, sir. We appreciate you. We have a few other people that are quickly recognized. One of them, of course, is the president of the Nigerian Institute of Quantity Surveyors, Quantity Surveyor Mohammed Abbator, fellow Nigerian Institute of Quantity Surveyors. Please put your hands together for him. Also with us here is the head of Strategy Management, FSS, that's the Financial System Strategy of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Ibrahim Hassan. You're welcome. Please let's honor him with an applause. Very quickly, we'll bring another man who has about 4 different appointments this morning on an assignment schedule, but he had decided first to come here and honor us today. He was only recently, particularly in 1989, awarded the University of Arizona 1989 Departmental Scholarship for Academic Excellence in a doctoral research in the areas of that include natural resource management, and particularly I want to focus on land, soil, forest, and water posture. Basically for us, he will be talking to us from experience, from research, and from his work as both student, scholar, and teacher. Let me therefore welcome for his remarks our friend, also our partner in this business, the Honorable Minister for Environment, Dr. Mohammed Mahmoud Abubakar. Please put your hands together for him. Thank you very much. We appreciate you. We are honored to have you. There are very few professionals who come up to become successful politicians. He has done well, and he's doing well as minister. Let's appreciate him some more.
The Honorable Minister of State, Works and Housing, my brother, representatives of other honorable ministers, representatives of the SGF, representatives of excellencies, governors, our guest, the Honorable Minister of State from Ghana, other distinguished personalities present here, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen of the press, good morning. Let me start by thanking the organizers of this event for inviting me, number one. And I'm particularly interested in the title of this event, Sustainable and Resilient Housing Solutions. Post-pandemic, yes, we are currently facing the coronavirus pandemic, but there's also another pandemic that is currently raging, which is the climate change pandemic. Yes, rightly, that we deal with the post-pandemic. We usually say to build back better, and that is exactly what this event is talking about, sustainable housing. Of course, climate change has so much to do with housing, land degradation. That's what the Federal Ministry of Environment is working towards. I just returned from Burkina Faso day before yesterday on the same housing and land degradation issue. I'm going to Mauritania tomorrow for the same environmental climate change issues, has to do with land degradation and housing. So as you can see, the environment is every bit part of housing. You cannot separate the two. That's why I'm particularly interested, and I thought whatever I have today, I should come here today and just give a little goodwill message. We all need all hands on deck, whether it's designing houses for environmental, as environmental friendly housing, construction. We are talking about houses also that can contribute towards energy transition. These are issues that have to do with what we are facing, climate change. And I often say, if you are talking about coronavirus pandemic, yes, it's raging and has turned the world upside down. But if climate change is to go crazy, coronavirus pandemic will be like child play, because coronavirus is only taking the human capital. Climate change will take everything along with it. As I speak with you today, there are island nations that are losing landmass already because of the rising sea level. Some are beginning to evacuate their little islands. So we have so much to do in terms of climate change, and I keep saying housing is part of it. So let's design, let's construct the houses that will stand the test of time, that can contribute towards climate change action, adaptation, mitigation, and resilience, exactly what you are talking about. So once again, I thank the organizers, and I wish you fruitful deliberations. Thank you.
This is the new life that we live now. Ladies and gentlemen, can we give His Excellency another resounding round of applause? Just before I bring up the next speaker for her goodwill message, permit me to recognize our international partners. Ladies and gentlemen, the Director of International Partnership, Abuja International Housing Show, the assistant, he's also the Assistant Vice President, Mortgage Operatives Trust Bank, United States of America. This was a mistake from Mr. Festus, and I know that once you're done with this show, you would always go to the US to catch your breath. So you need to apologize to Mr. Kunle Faletti. He's also one of the organizers. Ladies and gentlemen, can we please give him a round of applause, Mr. Kunle Faletti. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my singular honor to once again invite Her Excellency all the way from the Republic of Ghana. She's been in the Parliament for the third time. She is from the Tona North constituency, Republic of Ghana. And ladies and gentlemen, she is the Minister of Works and Housing, Honorable Dr. Frida Prempeh. If we are gender sensitive, ladies and gentlemen, the applause will be louder. Maybe you're not clapping for her because I did not tell you that Ghana is the gateway to Africa. Give her a round of applause. Even though Nigeria is the destination.
Thank you very much. It's time to hear the feminine voice. It looks like the housing industry is becoming a male-dominated area. But we ought to be gender sensitive wherever we find ourselves. I can see a few women around, but I'm expecting to see more. I bring you greetings from Ghana, and I must say I'm very happy to be back home. This is my second time attending the Abuja Housing Show. And let me tell you a secret. The last time I was here, I sat down listening to the introductions, and I heard Dr. this, Professor that, Professor Honorable, Dr. Honorable. I was then pursuing my PhD. But that really encouraged me, and I told myself that the next time I come back for the Abuja Housing Show, I'm coming back as Honorable Dr. Frida Prempeh. I must say, what I heard the last time really urged me on, not to defer my program, but combined with so many things to get to where I am today. So by the grace of God, and by what I learned from Abuja, this Honorable Dr. Frida Prempeh from Ghana. I would like to say it is an honor for me once again to deliver this address in this beautiful city of Abuja on the occasion of the 15th Housing Show with theme Sustainable and Resilient Housing Solutions for a Post-COVID World. I must once again commend Barrister Festus and his team for sustaining this show and bringing major stakeholders together. You will agree with me that globally, The year 2020 began on a very optimistic note with a forecast GDP growth rate of 2.4% back home in Ghana within the first quarter. Because I gave a very nice secret about myself, I forgot to stand by the existing protocols. So I stand by the existing protocols. Thank you. The COVID-19 global pandemic has had an unprecedented impact on all facets of our macroeconomic trends, including our human settlements, social housing, and affordable housing projects. But we are very optimistic of its great opportunities to building partnerships on slum upgrading, infilling, redevelopment, and delivering decent, safe, affordable housing. The economic crisis sparked by the pandemic and the great lockdown negatively impacted global economic growth beyond anything experienced in nearly a century. Large quarantines, travel restrictions, and social distancing measures resulted in a sharp fall in consumer and business spending, leading to a global recession with the GDP rate estimated to have contracted by an average of 4.5%. African economies were severely impacted, and the construction industry globally was not left out. The impact of COVID-19 has been more profound for the urban poor and vulnerable in society. These high-risk groups mostly live in overcrowded, high-density informal settlements with inadequate social and hygiene infrastructural facilities. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Your Excellencies, in these devastating times, the current living conditions in these informal settlements and slum areas are likely to potentially increase the risk of infection of the virus within and across these settlements. The pandemic has exacerbated our housing problems and shown us the cracks in the current system and has pointed a glaring spotlight on the overarching importance of the housing subsector to promoting health and sustainable livelihood in the sub-region. COVID-19 reinforces the crucial importance of our national government's mission of building a movement that improves the life chances of several millions of people in our urban communities. A social housing scheme for the disadvantaged is now a categorical imperative and must find some finance space for that. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, affordable housing has long been sidelined, but is the most comprehensive and sustainable humanitarian response we have in the face of the current pandemic. And future public health catastrophes must be a foundation and must be part of our post-corona economic recovery plan. Investing in the widespread construction of decent, affordable housing needs to be a top priority now more than ever for our countries. It is obvious that investing in affordable housing solutions delivers on many fronts for healthcare, pandemic protection, and prosperity. The provision of affordable and decent housing for the middle and low-income segments of the population remains a challenge. In fact, ensuring access to adequate, safe, and affordable housing is an important part of SDG 11, which commits the global community, including Ghana, to creating sustainable cities that are inclusive, safe, and resilient. Your Excellencies, responding to economic contraction with the construction of environment-smart, affordable housing will drive macroeconomic growth, stimulate job creation and financial sector deepening, and enable thousands of Africans to escape the poverty cycle. The collective responsibility for us in the construction industry must be to support those on low incomes for the benefit of our citizenry. The construction industry is often argued to be unique in its multiplicity of stakeholders, transient organizational structures, avoidance of risk and impact on society. Most governmental institutions on environment, and I'm happy our Minister of Environment spoke highly about climate change, have recognized construction as a sector in which significant progress and potential for improvement can, and indeed must be made in terms of both sustainability and resilience to the changing environment. A significant proportion of construction materials for the housing sector are imported from foreign countries such as China, Turkey, Italy, just to mention a few. And these countries are amongst the hardest hit in the case of pandemic. Although the industry in China has commenced production, the closed borders and travel restrictions globally means that it will take some considerable period before stockpiling of materials on site will reach normalcy as it stands now. It can be projected that this could take quite some time before it could be achieved. The situation, therefore, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, presents itself as an opportunity for participating states to capitalize on supporting alternative local manufacturing industries to bridge the supply gap. And our governments must integrate measures to boost local production of building materials. We need to be innovative and tap into the alternative local building materials, deepening on the dynamics in our various countries and communities. And I would like to say that Ghana has taken up the challenge. The ministry has taken it upon ourselves to explore into the use of local materials within our communities, depending on the dynamics in the various communities. In my community, for instance, we have a lot of clay deposits. So we are exploring into the use of bricks for the housing industry. We are looking at using laterites. Our forefathers used laterite. A 90-year-old house still stands firm. So right now, the Real Estate Development Agency in Ghana are exploring into the use of using laterites. And some are mixing laterite with some bit of cement and quarry dust and molding them into blocks. We are trying as much as possible to bring down the cost of building within the industry. And I would like to remind participants of this Congress that Africa is culturally, socially, and economically diverse, but our problems and needs are equally diverse. However, we have gathered here for the next few days to discuss how to address our common challenges. I believe the challenges in Abuja or Nigeria is not too different from what we are going through in Ghana. As team leaders in the built environment fraternity, we will have to be proactive and partner with our various governments to find lasting solutions to these challenges. Making our cities more resilient to environmental changes and natural disasters, and in the process helping them to improve their social and economic resilience is a major challenge of our time. A large and complicated aspect of urban resilience is the way to go. Building affordable housing at scale represents an untapped marketplace, and the opportunity that this presents will be of even more value to recovering post-COVID economies. Well-planned cities can facilitate economic growth and sustainable economic development. It is very encouraging to see the enthusiasm and participation of all present as ambassadors willing to share our experiences and with the adversity of financing products for the benefit of all back home. My ministry is currently sourcing for land banks, a major resource in the housing industry, and providing housing and infrastructure which includes inner road networks, sewage, electricity, water, etc. I believe that we all have challenges in the acquisition of lands in our various countries. So the ministry has taken it upon ourselves to acquire land banks, because our investors keep on having challenges. Some lands are sold to multiple buyers, and before you get access to the land you have paid for, it takes a longer time and some resources have to be spent. So to avoid that, the ministry has taken it upon ourselves to acquire land banks across the country and also go beyond that, have it serviced. We are still talking to the Ministry of Finance to support us so they'll be able to provide on-site infrastructure, talking about roads, talking about sewage, talking about electricity and all that, so they'll be able to bring down the cost of building. These service plots will be provided to investors for public-private partnership projects. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, research has proved that we can build decent sanitary homes at an average cost that will be affordable per house. Affordable homes are an asset that further proves and builds in resilience ahead of unanticipated crises, buffering families living on low incomes against shocks. This is truly an opportunity to build back a better industry, and I believe a stronger August body, such as the one we have now, and our stakeholders, but to mention a few, can come together and definitely take up the task. At whichever capacity here, you have an opportunity to contribute to inclusive urbanization and leave a positive mark on the millions of people in the sub-region. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, at the just ended 40th Annual General Meeting of Shelter Afrique in Cameroon, it came to light that about 56 billion of the urban infrastructure and housing deficit is needed by 44 member countries. Our Barrister Festus talked about the housing deficit. Back home in Ghana, we are battling with a 2 million housing deficit. But I must say we haven't had any comprehensive research to really ascertain the numbers as we talk about. But fortunately for us back home, we are undertaking our population and housing census that I believe that at the end of the day, we'll be able to come out with a concrete figure plus 5 minus 5. But as it stands now, we are battling with a housing deficit of 2 million. I also believe that the outcome of this meeting will definitely translate into practical policies, programs, and projects in our respective countries. I would say safe and sanitary homes with running water, clean energy is the future frontline defense against any future pandemic. While it is important to learn the best practices from elsewhere, context should not be lost on us. I therefore urge you to come out with solutions that are fit for purpose and allow us as a country to break the back of the housing finance problem. We must focus attention on land banks, identifying the challenges to financing affordable housing in Africa, and possibly policy instruments that can be improved to deliver affordable housing projects. A financial business model, ways and means to support a strategic, coherent engagement between ministries of finance and housing. Public partnership is very crucial. A recurring concern, however, is how to finance home ownership most efficiently and effectively. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, housing finance has thus become a topical issue amongst researchers, policymakers, and development partners. There is the urgent need to develop and implement more efficient ways to finance housing. In most countries, around mortgage financing is synonymous to housing finance. Construction finance for developers, mechanisms to reduce the cost of funds to ensure mortgage affordability should also be addressed. In the days ahead, Your Excellencies, we will continue to network and build partnerships and experience sharing on issues to address the housing challenge, urban poverty, especially in Africa. Let us strengthen our partnerships, upscale interventions, and leverage finance to ensure prosperity for all. with a special focus on women, our youth, and above all, commit to large-scale investment for inclusive economic prosperity and livelihood improvement. To conclude, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Your Excellencies, I once again thank you for this opportunity. I implore all of us to take cognizance of the closeness of the third wave of the pandemic. Let us continue to observe strict COVID protocols and find innovative ways of sustaining the momentum in the housing industry post-COVID. I once again want to remind you that with local materials industry, we can support the housing industry in our various countries to grow, and we can all come together to build a safe, affordable housing for our member countries. Thank you for this opportunity. Thank you.
Will please give her another round of applause. Thank you, Your Excellency. And, before I bring up the next speaker, ladies and gentlemen, whilst she was speaking, I understand the MD of Shelter Afrique just walked in here, Mr. Andrew Chiponda. Can we please give him a round of applause? Ladies and gentlemen, the chairman of New Era African Stone is here with us. Ladies and gentlemen, Lydia, can we please give her a round of applause? The president of Real Estate Developers Association of Nigeria, ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Aliu Wamako is also here with us. Another round of applause, please. And straight to the next speaker for his goodwill message, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to bring up the representative of the Secretary to the Federal Government, Barrister Boss Mustafa, in the person of Anthony I. Obiora. As you know, that he is the head of the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19. We want to thank you for even having time to send a representative. Thank you so much. Sir, please come forward. Another round of applause for him, please.
Thank you very much, the organizers and your council team. I'm here to represent the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Barrister Boss Mustafa, who would have loved to be here present, but is currently attending some important state functions in the villa. He has sent me to deliver a goodwill message on his behalf. I have a paper to read. The voice you'll be hearing is mine, but the spirit behind the letter of the word I'm going to say is that of my boss, Barrister Boss Mustafa, the SGF. Goodwill, let me say this, I want to stand on the existing protocol, please. Goodwill message presented by the SGF on the 15th Abuja International Conference, Housing Show Conference and International Housing Exhibition, holding here on 26 July. It's a privilege to be here at the 15th Abuja International Housing Show with the theme, Sustainable and Resilient Housing Solution for a Post-Pandemic World. This is the 15th consecutive year that the International Housing and Construction Show Limited is organizing this international conference on housing and construction. This time the focus is on making housing a policy and response tool towards addressing COVID-19 pandemic. It is no longer news that Nigeria, like its counterparts across emerging and advanced markets, is dealing with issues that are tied to increase in population, rapid urbanization,
dwelling resources, youth unemployment, terrorism, and most recently the COVID-19 pandemic. For this reason, this year's conference speaks to the heart of government's efforts in addressing the issues with housing and construction as a focal point for unrolling the economic and development benefits of home ownership in creating wealth and lifting a significant number of our 200 million population out of poverty. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the government plans and initiatives in the aftermath of the pandemic-induced recession and prevalent challenges include its focus on the housing and construction sectors of the economy as major drivers of the present administration's economic plan. The government has taken a collaborative approach to addressing the nation's challenges by establishing the 200 billion naira housing intervention called the National Social Housing Program, contained in the recently approved National Economic Sustainability Plan, NESP. It has an implementation plan to deliver over 300,000 houses for those on low income, address the issues with housing affordability on an annual basis, with the intent of creating about 1.8 million jobs while making impact on housing growth and provision. As a country, we cannot downplay the fact that the challenges in the housing sector are enormous as the demand continues to increase in the face of a growing number of internally displaced persons. However, the government will continue to make conscious efforts towards addressing the restiveness arising from herders, farmers, and communal clashes. Nigeria's economic and social challenges is not insurmountable, but rather holds great promises and opportunities. The participants and stakeholders of the housing sector have been granted an opportunity to make history by collaborating to chart a better course for our nation's housing sector and overall development. It is widely acknowledged that housing reform demands the alignment of various challenges from interest rates to land administration and the capacity of workers to afford housing. As simple as this may sound, the inability to adequately provide for the citizenry where housing is concerned can exert powerful influence on the political, economic, and social fabric of our society. The government's national and socio-economic goals aimed at improving the livelihood of public sector servants as well as the generality of Nigerian workers for economic and social progress is largely hinged on the National Social Housing Program. The nation's #1 resource remains its people. An economic importance of over 200 million people and an ever-growing housing demand of over 17 million cannot be taken lightly. The government would like to charge all stakeholders in the public sector to collaborate towards ensuring that government's housing-related interventions and programs are planned for with the appropriate data. Government looks forward to the yearly communique from this forum as the AIHS provides the appropriate venue for private sector and government to present and discuss challenges facing their respective organizations and the way forward. It is a collaborative and supportive environment for leaders at both the local and international levels to discuss the opportunities in housing and real estate sector. We live in a closely connected world with fast-changing trends, and for us to remain relevant as a nation and as an industry, it is important that we review developments constantly. I'm glad that the AIHS is at the forefront of taking stock of new developments and policy innovations. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, government understands the importance of housing markets to the potential growth of Nigeria's economy and lifting the people from poverty. But government cannot accomplish this without private sector investments and collaboration. I believe that the 15th edition will provide the opportunity for practitioners and policymakers to meet and deliberate on important components of housing delivery and financing systems, as well as innovative ways of designing and delivering of housing. At this juncture, I wish to convey the good wishes of the federal government of Nigeria and commend the conveners of the Abuja International Housing Show for their continued pursuit of affordable housing provision as a tool for stimulating growth. I thank you all for listening and wish you all fruitful deliberations throughout the conference. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I think he deserves another round of applause for helping us to fight COVID-19. Thank you. The next person I want to introduce, of course, is our guest of honor, and he will also be saying a few things. And looking through him, before we go, I have someone to just specially introduce. Let me welcome the President of the Association of Housing Corporations of Nigeria, Dr. Victor Onokoga. Please put your hands together for him. The next person I'm introducing had worked in his early days of his career at the Ministry of Works and Housing. He also went on to become a managing director of the Yobe State Housing and Property Development Corporation. And for me, that is very important to our discussion for today. At some point, he was also in charge of State Boundary Committee as a task force. And very, very recently, he was given the Best Deputy Governor of the Decade Award in the entire Northeast by the Northeast Star magazine. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, while it is easy to build houses in megacities and state capitals, the most difficult of them all is to build is rural housing and rural integration. And this man, at some point, has not only been Minister of Health, focusing on the health of the people in the rural areas, he has also been overseer of the Ministry of Integrated Rural Development in Yobe State. Let me therefore welcome one who is most qualified to speak to us as our guest of honor for today, the Honorable Minister of State for Works and Housing, Federal Republic of Nigeria, Engineer Abubakar D. Aliyu, FNSC. Please put your hands together for him.
Good afternoon. Actually, I am not the special guest of honor, but my colleague, who is supposed to be here, but due to the requirements of our work, he asked me to come here on his behalf. We are actually supposed to be in Cross River State, at the Cameroon-Nigerian border together, but you can see the benefit of having two ministers on a particular job. So we decided that I should come here because of the importance of this show. As I'm talking to you now, he's in the border of Cameroon and Nigeria in Cross River State, where we have built a connecting bridge and a road that link Cameroon. And so he sends his goodwill. So I am going to read his speech. The Honorable Minister of Environment in absentia, Dr. Mohamed Mahmoud Abubakar, the Honorable Minister of State, Works and Housing from Ghana, Honorable Dr. Freda Fremfi, I say Akwaba. I just scanned to learn how to greet her in order to welcome her. Akwaba in Ghana means welcome. So the former Minister of Environment, Surveyor Suleiman Hassan Zarma, who is the chairman of this occasion, the representative of the SGF, Antonio Obioha, the convener of the housing show, Barrister Festus, representative of the FCT Minister, Representative Olusade Olusola, representative of the Lagos State Governor, Moruf Fatai, representative of Yobe State Governor, that's where I come from, the representative of my governor, Alhaji Maimala Buni, who is ably represented by Alhaji Dr. Bukar Dauda. The representative of Borno State Governor, this is also my people, Borno State. It's represented Governor Babagana Zulum. It's represented by Barrister Bashir Meidugu, president of the professional organizations here, other distinguished dignitaries, gentlemen of the press, our two MCs, the other distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Permit me to start by expressing my profound gratitude to the organizers for the privilege to present the keynote address at the 15th Abuja International Housing Show. 4 years ago, during the 11th edition, I had the honor of presenting a similar keynote address on the theme, Solving Nigeria's Housing Challenge Through Innovative Finance and Infrastructure Solution. A number of my submissions on that occasion are still very germane to our realities today, and I will do a quick recap shortly before dwelling on the grounds covered since then, as well as our response to more recent challenges like the COVID-19 pandemic. Please permit me at this juncture to recognize my friend, the MD of Shelter Afrique, whom I have missed because he came late. When I was internalizing the protocol, he wasn't around. So he's here now. You're welcome, please. So I continue. However, you must permit me at this juncture to once again commend the vision, tenacity, and commitment of the organizers of this annual event, which has year after year provided this most auspicious platform for a sustained interactive conversation on the housing sector. I must add that, without a doubt, great brands are built on such attributes as have been displayed by the organizers over the years. Today, the organized private sector is taking a lead position in addressing the affordable housing challenges, as can be seen from the several organizations with diverse housing solutions being advertised. And this speaks to the impact of the work of the organizers of this housing show and similar bodies in the country, such as the Lafarge Group, at whose recent initiative on housing I participated in. At the 2017 conference, I canvassed a housing economy as a viable means of rebuilding the nation and its economy. This is because the housing economy delivers on a continuous basis at every spectrum of the value chain, with impact mostly on the lives of artisans, laborers, builders, and other suppliers at the construction sites, who are the most vulnerable members of the society. I had announced then that our team in the ministry, working with professionals from the private sector and other stakeholders, had designed a national housing model that responds to the cultural and climatic diversities of Nigeria, and that the ministry was then building in 33 states of the Federation as a pilot prior to a sustained interface with the private sector. Arising from the initiative, I gave examples from my personal interaction with such categories of people during the inspection of the housing sites in Taraba, Gombe, Ekiti, and other states across the country in early 2017, during which the resounding narratives from the plumbers, welders, bricklayers, food vendors was, "Thank you for us because we are back to work. Thank Buhari for us because we are back to work," unquote. I recall then from my visit to the Oyo State site, where I met a couple from Lagos working at the site with the husband as a mason and bricklayer, while the wife sold food to workers. I also spoke then about plans to include members of the informal sector in the housing program through the expansion and registration of more cooperatives and assisting people to key into the program, because within the financing sector, it had become important to ensure that those who have legitimate assets and income but were not in the formal recorded form could still be assisted to participate in home ownership. I also acknowledged that there was a challenge in the nation's housing sector, but insisted that the way to solve it was not to be intimidated by the size, but to focus on how to overcome it bit by bit, urging that the size of the problem should not dampen the enthusiasm to seek for solutions. Of course, I also disagreed with the estimated size of the nation's housing deficit because it lacked any empirical basis. If we fast forward to the present and this 2021 conference, holding even as our country, as indeed the entire world, is still grappling with the socio-economic consequences of the COVID-19 pandemic, I have nothing but progress to report about how the built industry, operatives, professionals, and other stakeholders have contributed to increasing the stock of affordable and accessible home ownership in the pre- and post-COVID era. Indeed, housing delivery in COVID-19 era and beyond, the strategies for affordability and accessibility was the theme at the 9th edition of the National Council meeting on lands, housing, and urban development, which held in Jos, Plateau State. And most of the recommendations at that meeting remain apt for the gathering here today. But permit me to dwell on the progress report pertaining to my submissions at the 2017 conference. As part of the President Muhammadu Buhari's developmental agenda of addressing housing needs in Nigeria, the federal government inaugurated a pragmatic national housing program, NHP, for the construction of acceptable and affordable houses nationwide. The first phase of the program commenced in the 2016 financial year in 34 states and FCT. The reason why we have not commenced in 2 states, Lagos and Rivers, was that we couldn't get land from the state at that time. But as I'm talking to you now, effort is being made to build in these 2 states. Further to the above, the ministry is promoting local content in line with the Executive Order 3 and 5, the use of available local building materials in the NHP has stimulated the economy through the production and use of these materials. The overall economic value chain arising from the housing construction activities is mostly beneficial to the Nigerian youths who are directly involved in the physical production of the houses. The philosophy behind the NHP is the provision of pilot housing scheme that is affordable, accessible, and acceptable as contained in the National Housing Policy. The approach to the design and use of materials takes cognizance of the cultural and environmental considerations of the regions, thereby responding to the tenets of the Building Energy and Efficiency Code being championed by the ministry. A total of 1,021 building contractors have been engaged under Phase 1 and 2 of the program since the inception in 2016, and 13,680 and 41,040 direct and indirect jobs have been generated. During this period, the ministry has undertaken the construction of 4,694 housing units, and out of which 2,249 units have been completed in 34 states and FCT, with a total of 41 sites spread over 34 states and FCT. This does not include other initiatives by the ministry, such as housing development through public-private partnership, PPP initiatives, and site and service schemes across the states. It also does not include houses delivered by the Federal Housing Authority, FHA, and the Federal Mortgage Bank of Nigeria, FMBN, both of who are parastatals of the ministry engaged in housing delivery and finance. A lot has also happened with regards to the policy on cooperatives, which was in its embryonic stage in 2017, and this was also reported at the council meeting as follows. Court, I am in a position to update council that the Federal Mortgage Bank of Nigeria, FMBN, has been the driver of the initiative at Federal Government of Nigeria level, and they have 86 cooperatives engaged in projects. 2, 35,784,000,000 cumulatively approved. 3, 10.95 billion cumulatively disbursed. 4, 57 cooperative housing development loans under processing as at January 2021. The potential for accessibility and affordability is that 1, cooperative members can choose what they want and therefore design and build to fit their own individual and group budget. 2, cooperatives can leverage their members to get group discount for purchase of building materials and the engagement of contractors to build. Because state governments control much more land, the use of the land as a tool to enable cooperatives within their states to build can be very impactful in changing the affordability and accessibility paradigms in the COVID-19 era and beyond. As underscored during the council meeting, the federal government is fully aware that housing challenges are prevalent in urban centers, which should be understood as a symptom of urbanization. The rural areas face less challenges, as evidenced by a number of empty houses available for occupation. Urbanization creates excess demand, which in turn creates economic problems of demand and supply that is translated into price hike and scarcity. This ultimately impacts on affordability and accessibility of houses. It is evident that most houses available for sale or rent belong mostly to individuals and private companies compared to those the states or federal government have available. Therefore, many of the tenants who owe rent, who face eviction, or who seek to rent or buy property due to the pandemic are dealing with private citizens or companies, and less so with government agencies. Consequently, my recommendation for improving access and affordability in the COVID-19 era and beyond, as presented at the council meeting, and which is still apt for this gathering, is for private companies and individuals to give back some of what they control to citizens in the way the federal government of Nigeria has given back to citizens some of what it controls. For example, in cases where rent of businesses or individuals are due for renewal, the private landlords can give back by accepting monthly, quarterly, or half-yearly rent instead of 1 year, 2 or 3 years rent in advance. The risk of default can be secured by bank guarantees or insurance bonds provided by the tenant or the employer in exchange for a direct debit mandate for the employer for the deduction of his rent from his salary to pay the landlord. Where rent has fallen into arrears, it is possible to emulate what federal government of Nigeria did through the CBN to reschedule payment on loans by rescheduling the payment for the tenant to more affordable terms instead of adopting eviction. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, notably, all of these are matters of voluntary action by property owners and a matter of concern. And perhaps the question to ask is whether we can do for ourselves or give to one another what we ask government to do for us or give to us. Beyond voluntary action, there is state intervention which can facilitate access and affordability. Hence, the recommendation to the Council to consider intervention by way of recommending a legislation that limits how much advance rent can be demanded or paid for renting accommodation. This is a fertile and yet largely untapped ground for state legislators to connect with their constituents by making legislation that regulate the demand for prohibitive advance rent payments in areas of high density where the bulk of the people live. This because rent is not a federal matter. I venture to predict that a legislator or groups of legislators who take action in this regard will walk into the warm embrace of their constituents at the appropriate time for having delivered through representation. The sanction for non-compliance is that this will be a self-enforcing legislation in that the state apparatus, such as the courts, will not help any party to such a contract get relief, as it will be a patently illegal contract. This has been tried in other jurisdictions within and outside Nigeria, and it has helped to improve accessibility and affordability. Many empty properties in our urban centers remain inaccessible or unaffordable because of some of the factors associated with advance rent, and they can be unlocked if we act. On this note, I enjoin you all to have a fruitful deliberation which hopefully will advance the cause of affordable housing and further stimulate the housing economy nationwide. I thank you all for your attention.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Please, can we give him another round of applause? We'll just crave your indulgence to present 4 awards. And the reason why we insist that you're the one to present them is because of the category that they are. So thank you so much. I'd like to call all the board members. Mr. Festus, Where are the board members of the Abuja International Housing Show? Please join. Akim Oguniro.
Femi Adewale.
Mm-hmm.
All board members to please come.
All board members, please join His Excellency here. Yes.
Prince Lufadejo. The president of the professional bodies to please join us. President of professional bodies. President NIQS to please join us for this celebration.
And then you need to apologize to the US.
Okay, yes. I think it's time for me. One of our board members, I forgot to recognize him when I was speaking during the welcome address. So it's my pleasure to introduce him, Mr. Kunle Faleti, popularly known as Mr. Housing. He stays in America, and all the time he comes to Abuja Housing Show. I think this is his 15th edition. Can we give him a round of applause? 15th edition.
All right. Please maintain social distance. What do you mean?
We are the winners.
Yes. All right. So,
thank you, President.
Him. Oh, so you're supposed to be there. Okay. All right. The first recipient, ladies and gentlemen, is the Minister of the Year, and she is none other than the Minister.
The award we are presenting today. We are the black.
Mike, give him the mic.
Yes, sir. Yes. This first award we are presenting it to the Honorable Minister for States, Works and Housing, Republic of Ghana, for our relentless efforts in ensuring that there is affordable housing provision in Africa. This is our fourth time of coming to attend Abuja International Housing. During the first time, she came with the leaders of the Parliament of the Republic of Ghana. Second time, they also came. So it's my pleasure. Before I present that award, I want the head of Shelter Afrique say their boats in Shelter Afrique to please come and join us in the presentation of this award by the Honorable Minister of State Works and Housing of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So he's from Ghana. And the Shelter Afrique, we need attention. Minister of Housing, Minister of State for Housing, West Africa, affordable housing.
Frida. No, sir, you have to be there.
You don't need to see my eye, you will recognize it. You don't have to see my mouth. If you want to know, I'm smiling under the mask.
Don't worry. So go to the middle. Go to the middle. I will hand it to you.
Always ask me to use my mask. So the place is so crowded. That's why. It's my pleasure to present this award on behalf of the Minister.
All right, the next recipient. Lagos.
The second award goes to the state government. Say, okay.
To my honorable minister for this wonderful award. I'm honored and privileged to have this prestigious award. And I must say that it will urge me all to work harder. And surprisingly, since I ventured into this industry, the awards keep on coming. And I remember recently I met with my president, and he told me that, Frida, I know the passion you have for the housing industry. So be focused and continue. I believe this will serve as an inspiration and motivation to a lot of women to venture into the industry. Thank you, Abuja Housing Show. Thank you, Festus, and thank you, Nigeria.
Thank you. Next, Lagos State Governor. The governor on coming to power introduced real estate regulatory program. A lot of things are happening in the real estate sector. As the owner of a popular housing program on AIT and TVC, we have so many complaints against a lot of estate developers. The Lagos State government have been doing very well in regulating the activities in that sector. And it's on that note we are recognizing the governor, Sanwo-Olu Babajide, at this 15th Abuja International Housing Show. My Honorable Minister.
What state is that? The commissioner is the one. I know, which state? No, that's Lagos.
Award is for Mr. Governor, Mr. Baba.
Just two other awardees who are state governors. The governor of Borno State, the representative to please come forward. The governor of Yobe State. These two governors, despite the Boko Haram attack on daily basis, are still producing low-cost housing for their citizens. We must put on record today that the governor of Yobe State has produced 3,500 low-cost housing being financed by Family Homes Fund. So it's my pleasure to invite the representative of the governor of Yobe State. And that is the state of my honorable minister.
Don't think because I am the one giving the award that I have earned it. No. I'm just finding it now that he has earned it. So he has actually earned this award. He's my governor of Yobe State, where I come from. This award goes to him, His Excellency, Mala Abuni, for housing friendly governor. I present this award on behalf of His Excellency, Baba Tunde Raji
pleasure to be the one present this award to you for onward delivery to the governor. Don't go and keep it in your office.
And the last, but not the least, we want to take on. His other name is called Mr. Go down.
He's walking.
Mr.
On behalf of my colleague, Honorable Abatunde Radi, National Minister for Health and Housing, SAN, present this award to Professor Babagana Malazulu, Affordable Housing Governor of the I'm presenting this award to you for on delivery to you. Congratulations. Actually, when the MC was introducing my previous engagement in the housing sector,
Please, you have to now. I think we should hand up. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Can we give His Excellency a round of applause? Your Excellency, just before you go, after would have your other colleague and our landlord speak. When he is done, we have another function yet for you to perform before you leave. We thank you because we know that this is one of those very rare occasions where you have a minister sit at the event. In fact, he was one of those who got here first. He was at the VIP lounge, and then, of course, he's still here. So we thank you. We do appreciate that. We don't take it for granted. Can we please give him another round of applause? And of course, to all the other ministers who are here, who have remained till this time, it shows that this is very important to you. Thank you so much for staying. We know that your schedule is amazingly tight, but thank you all the same. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to recognize here in our midst, before the speech of our host minister, I'd like to recognize the presence of the MD Urban Shelter, Hajia Sadia Aminu Aliyu. Can we please give her a round of applause? I know she doesn't like to be, publicly recognized, but we see your work. Thank you so much for what you do. God bless you. All right, next, ladies and gentlemen, it is my singular honor to recognize His Excellency and bring him upstage to make his remarks. Honorable Mohammed Bello, the Honorable Minister of Federal Capital Territory, who is ably represented by the Permanent Secretary, FCT, Mr. Olushade Adeshola. Can we please give him a round of applause as he comes for his remarks?
Representative, His Excellency, the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, ably represented in this event, the Honorable Minister of Environment, Dr. Mohammed Mahmoud Abubakar, the Honorable Minister of State for Works and Housing, Engineer Abubakar D. Aliyu, the Chairman of the occasion, and former Minister of Environment, Sobios Suleiman Zarma, the state governors here present and represented by their various high-level officials, president of the various organizations here present, the Honorable Minister of State for Works and Housing of Ghana, of the Republic of Ghana, who also brandished her newly acquired doctorate degree to us today, Freda Prempe. I think I will also have to go and get my own, so that by the next event I will also be a doctor. The other guests here present, my colleague, the Acting Executive Secretary, FCDA, Hajia Zalihau Ahmed, gentlemen of the press, ladies and gentlemen. I took the liberty of being the host to go through this protocol list because I observed that the Honorable Minister of State for Works and Housing did a good job in presenting the protocol list, and I should naturally have climbed on her shoulders. But I said, as the person representing his brother, who is the host of all of us, let me take this liberty to also recognize others. I thank you, sir. The Honorable Minister will have had desire to be here because it was only just in the early hour of this morning that I received his directive that I should come and represent him. So while doing so, he also gave me his goodwill address and messages to deliver to this auspicious gathering. He said, and I read, I am quite delighted to be here today at this opening ceremony of the 15th Abuja International Housing Show. May I begin by welcoming all delegates, investors, exhibitors, and other stakeholders involved in the housing and construction industry who have traveled from within and outside Nigeria to Abuja for this all-important event. Permit me also to congratulate the Housing and Construction Show Limited and its numerous partners and collaborators for sustaining the Abuja International Housing Show for 15 years and nurturing it from a small garden of exhibitors to becoming Africa's biggest housing and construction event. Your dedication and commitment to the growth and development of the Cindy commend tandem with our efforts for the provision of affordable housing and equally our urban renewal agenda. Over the past decade, the FCT has witnessed an unprecedented increase in population, and this has inevitably put a huge strain on housing, city infrastructure, and utilities. The result has been an increase in unauthorized residential dwellings, resulting in the rise of shanties and slums, as well as spike in the attendant social vices that accompany such housing situations. While we are making concerted efforts to remove such slums and shanty dwellings, a more plausible solution to this problem is the massive provision of affordable housing for the low and middle income earners. This can only be achieved with an active participation of the private sector in every aspect of this huge endeavor. We are already taking the first bold step in making this a reality with the recent approval of the FCT Land Swap Initiative by the Federal Executive Council. This initiative, which is a globally recognized and accepted method of urban development, will take the huge financial burden for the provision of infrastructure off the government and transfer it to capable private investors. It also ensures a win-win situation for the government, the private sector investors, and most importantly, ordinary Nigerian citizens of all categories who will have access to land encased in the essential urban infrastructure on which to build their homes. We are encouraged by the number and pedigree of investors that have indicated interest in the land swap program. It is our intention that as many Nigerians as possible will have access to decent living conditions in the FCT via this initiative. However, there still exists the dilemma of access to finance by intending homeowners. While it is reassuring to know that mortgage financial institutions are well represented there, I urge them to do more in sensitizing members of the public on their services and the advantages of financing home ownership through this method. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it is our expectation that this international housing event will showcase some of the newer innovations in building and construction technology that will take into cognizance not only environmental concerns, but also the rising cost of conventional building materials without compromising on quality. In a similar vein, kindly permit me to use this opportunity to admonish housing developers in the FCT to always follow all extant development control guidelines, as violations that lead to avoidable consequences such as flooding or building collapse will not be tolerated. As the organization saddled with the task of developing a world-class capital city for our country, our doors remain open and we welcome all innovations and ideas that will add value to our task of building a capital territory of which we will all be proud. On that note, I hereby declare open the 15th Abuja International Housing Show, and I wish you all a rewarding and productive experience. Thank you for your attention, and may God bless us all.
Can we give His Excellency another round of applause? Thank you for being an amazing host in the last 15 years. Thank you so much. Permit me, ladies and gentlemen, to recognize finally on our list the President of Nigeria Institution of Building, the President of the Nigeria Institute of Building, Builder Kunle Awobodu. Can we please give him a round of applause? Thank you. And finally, for the vote of thanks, it is my singular honor, ladies and gentlemen, to call up stage Reverend Ugo Chima for the closing remarks. Please give him a round of applause.
Mr. Chairman of the occasion, my very good friend for over 20-something years now, I would like to stand on existing protocols. My job is very simple. I'd like to say thank you so much for being part of a movement that a young man started 15 years ago to showcase the fact that one man can make a difference. It's a lesson and a story to all of us that individually we should know that we are capable in our own little niche, in our own office, to start a movement that can change our environment and bring to bear those latent desires we have of being a change agent in our environment. That is the history of Abuja International Housing Show. For those who have come from far and near, I want to thank you for your persistence in coming to support a worthy cause. I want to thank Dr. Frida. She has not only shown it in her work, but all over the whole place she has been in Shelter Africa. She has always spoken about Abuja International Housing Show. We are very proud of you. Well, thank you so much, madam. We are proud of you. Take our joy and take our gratitude with you to Ghana. My good friend, Andrew Chiponda, thank you. We are aware of what we are trying to do to the stock market in Nigeria to make sure that we have Naira-denominated loans to build houses in Nigeria. You are trying to remove a huge bottleneck that have stood in the way of doing what you have really loved to do. For being there in the forefront of that, we appreciate you so much. We appreciate the various ministers who are here. We thank you so much for what you are trying to bring on board. Not only supporting the private sector, but being in the forefront. I was so happy that the Honorable Minister mentioned that for 4 years he has been here, 2017, going back to recount the effort that have been made to be able to ensure that we have this going on forward. I want to thank the various captains of industries, the presidents of professional bodies, the representative of the governors who are here. I want to thank in particular the two that received the award on behalf of the governors, because they have showcased what it is to make a difference in spite of the challenges in their various states. Thank you so much. Please take our regards to their excellencies, that we appreciate what they have shown, that the limitations of the socio-economic challenge and security challenge could not stop them from moving the dial forward for their environment. On behalf of the stakeholders of the Abuja International Housing Show, we'd like to also to thank the media for being here with us. TVC was on air, live, and also to appreciate other people who have, in one way, the guest speakers, who will be soon starting to make sure that we discuss in detail various aspects of the space in the housing industry. I want to thank you for coming. I want to thank in particular also the various people who are in the background ensuring that what we are doing gets to function properly while we are on the front end, in the front office, directing affairs. So on behalf of the stakeholders, I want to say to all of you, thank you so much for coming, and may you continue to be the change agent in our environment. Thank you, and God bless you. Thank you so much.
I thought we were in this together. I find that I am the only one handling this aspect of the event. I want to thank everyone who's been here, Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. But just before we exit the hall to the exhibition hall, would like to invite the awardees to please come forward for a group photograph with Your Excellencies. So please, would ask you to please come up stage. Your Excellency, if you may. So that, okay, the awardees, once they're done, then we invite the Honorable Minister to join them. And then there are other photographs that we need to take. Then we take the national anthem before we exit the hall for the exhibition. All right? On stage, please. Mr. Festus. No need, just come forward. Okay. They have theirs. Can we have their own award?
Mr. Festus, if you can hear us, please, can we have you quickly join us for these pictures? You can hear in the exhibition area. Mr. Festus, you're needed around here.
If it is the photographers, they are never done because they must get.
It's good to smile for the picture. It means what they're doing is good.
Thank you very much. Can we please give them a round of applause?
As soon as they go to their seats, of course, we'll be getting set for the national anthem in a bit. But let's allow them the rituals of pictures. And they're doing that well. So immediately after that, we'll get ready. We'll be going into just go around to see what's happening at the exhibition hall. Exhibitors have come from all over the world, mainly Africa, but we have all over the world. They are beautiful materials exhibited. It's important that you go and see them before you take your leave.
Ben. Your Excellency, we thank you so much. Can we please give him a round of applause? Are we ready?
Let me once again appreciate Reverend Onokoga, who's the immediate past president of Redan, and he came all the way from Enugu with his beautiful wife. Thank you very much, sir. We appreciate you. Please put your hands together for me.
May we rise for the national anthem. would like to thank you as we proceed to the exhibition hall. On behalf of myself, MC Amana, and my colleague, Ben 200, the legend, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. It's been an honor hosting this event. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please make sure that you don't just go away, go into the exhibition hall. Once you go to the main foyer, you take left, it leads directly into the hall. Please go around, see all the exhibitors, and please let's enjoy the view and enjoy the afternoon.
And don't just go away, stop by the door and have something to munch on. Thank you.
It may not be really luncheon, it's munch.
You did record that one?